Natty, did you get my email?
I'm Stu Brule with Studio Brule, and I'm here live with the Liberty Bells for ladies from London, England, talking about the issues of the day in London. And sorry, we're a little bit late today, but we'll be running for about 30 minutes talking with the Liberty Bells. And Elizabeth, before we went live, you mentioned there's a article saying nasty things about you out there right now. Can you tell us what that's about?
Absolutely. So it's a group called Hope Not Hate, who have kind of links to Antifa and stuff like that. And they've put out this article smearing us as far right. The fact that I've given a talk at a place called the London Forum, which is a bit of an alt-right kind of meeting. So I went there to talk about NGM, and I didn't really know anything about them. But it transpires they've had kind of Holocaust deniers and people like this talking there before. So yeah, we've been lumped in with all of them, and I've been called an emerging voice in far right circles, which is ridiculous. I mean, this article, it kind of goes on for a while, and it's got a little bit about Natty as well, because she went to an event where Claire Core was talking. And you know, they've got absolutely no quotes from us or anything like that. It's pure guilt by association, but it's up by various people. We've had people in touch from The Guardian and places like that, and you know, every time we sort of talk on Twitter or anything like that, you get someone jumping in going, hey, aren't you these people? Aren't you the far right girls? So it's all madness, really. And while I'm talking, I would like to say an absolutely huge sorry to all the other girls involved, because this is completely my fault. I never should have taken that speaking gig. I was very naive.
No, Elizabeth, you know, like I said, we've written a rebuttal, and like I said in the rebuttal, you know, professional speakers. We're not. We don't have agents. We don't have managers. We don't have people. We don't know. You're 20 years younger than me. I know who David Irving is, but I mean, have you ever heard of him? I mean, I read his book.
Until recently, no, not until all this broke.
Exactly. So I mean, who? Most people today are not going to know who David. Read, you know, Richard Evans' book, Telling Lies About Hitler. I have, but that's because I'm 20 years older than you all. Like I said in the rebuttal, this guy wanted to slur us so badly, you might as well have been standing at a bus stop next to David Irving, and he would have accused you of sharing a platform with him. You've got nothing to apologize for. You know, you didn't stand up there and say anything racist. You know, they can't find anything racist, anything like that. Not. We have nothing to be afraid of in that matter. So don't apologize.
And Elizabeth, if it hadn't been that, it would have been something else. It would have been the next thing. They'd have found something, because he was just so desperate to conflate what we are with absolutely evil people, because it's the only way they can control us, and it's the only way that they can silence us.
Yeah, it's there's everything in it is just inference from, you know, really tenuous kind. It's just the left again trying to maintain and get control of a narrative, any kind of reference to the truth or anything like that. And again, they'll do it again. You know, we put our heads above the parapet. We've made ourselves targets, and you know, that's what the left do. But you know, we're confident that, you know, egalitarians, classical liberals, we've got nothing to hide.
The far left has a habit of accusing anyone right of the very far left as being far right. And in their perspective, they don't see anything left of them. So everything is far right when they take a look to the right.
Yeah.
They campaign by smear as well, rather than policies. I mean, it's just absolutely of anything we've ever said in there.
Yeah, they couldn't find any quotes of us saying anything, because we haven't said anything. That's basically it. You know, Natty went to meet Claire.
Yeah, I did.
Claire Core. because she wanted to see, Nat is a really good journalist. She actually wanted to go and meet somebody who's got this really big online and see who that person was. So she went to see them. That was the reason she went to see them. What she found, well, that's in our.
A small. Okay, this is me. I'm deliberately saying things about Claire now. I don't care, because that's what she does online. So I found a small Chinese from Malaysia, but Chinese lady who is middle-aged and not very necessarily that great at talking in public, much better trolling people online. She didn't come out with any of the stuff that she says online. She kept it very guarded. She didn't go on about the UK needing a theocratic dictatorship and that women should be slut-shamed and we should have a kind of Western version of Sharia law. She didn't say any of that stuff when she delivered her speech at this extremist club. She just said that we need a theocratic system. And in fact, when I was there, I asked the question, I said, how come you're not going into detail about your other views? But the guy that was moderating she'd run out of time. So I didn't get to sort of have any back and forth with her publicly, which I wanted to. So, and also at this club, I found people of varying degrees on the political spectrum. There are some people from the outright there. There are some people that are anarchists. There are some people that are quite lefty. So, it's a place where people go to express controversial opinions or unmainstream opinions. Some people talk about conspiracy theory stuff. Some people talk about other things that are not necessarily that popular in the mainstream. So, it's kind of what
well, it's what journalists do. What journalists are supposed to do. You're supposed to go at the sources to find out exactly what he did.
And as a result of that, so I know that the guy that wrote this article on Hope Not Hate, I know that he contacted Claire Court and she gave him that information. He didn't make a very good effort to get in contact with us. He did make an effort, but he published the article the day after he didn't receive a reply. And then he said in the article,
it went declined to email, didn't it? Because you're the only person who's got access to that email. None of the rest of us do at the minute. My Twitter account, Elizabeth's direct emails on her Twitter account. It's not going to be hard to get in touch with, especially get in touch with Elizabeth.
Yeah, definitely.
If he's a journalist, if he's a real researcher, he could have done that, and he didn't.
No.
Yeah, he also was, he put in that I'd spoke on a radio show called THA Talks, where I went on to talk about male genital mutilation again. And he says that that's got interviews with, I think, David Irving and sort of unsavory people like that, which I was unaware of. But I went to their homepage, and one of the first links on there is to an interview with a guy from the Socialist Worker. Not a far-right platform. It is, a platform that promotes free speech for open minds, which is their tagline. And, I don't regret going on that show, because I think we do need open dialogue with all kinds of people, and I don't agree with the Socialist Worker, I'm sure, but, happy to for him to have a platform and for me to have a platform to talk about circumcision.
Well, this is,
if you can't hear what people are saying, you can't rebut them, can you? You need to be able to hear them.
And this is the point that I made to you guys on Facebook recently in the Messenger, where I said that when I first started questioning feminism and progressive and lefty ideology in a more profound way than I had been, that's when I was a student at uni, for example, it then led me to start looking at, like, the London forums, YouTube channel, for example, after Elizabeth had her video uploaded on there, because I thought to myself, oh, well, you know, like, if we're being marginalized, then maybe there's a reason why some of these people are being marginalized, and maybe some of what they have to say is credible. So I went and had a look and listened to what some of them had to say, and some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. In fact, most of it I don't, because I'm a libertarian. But my point is that what the left seems to be doing is anyone that doesn't toy their line, they then lump into the same category. And then you have a look around at the people in this category, and we're all really different. We don't all share the same views, yet we all get labeled under the same far right, or, you know, kind of even neo-Nazi or white supremacist or some kind of rubbish like that tagline. There's no nuance, there's no kind of varying levels of, you know, who's a classic liberal, who's a, you know, authoritarian right person, who, you know, there's no nuance at all, and it just displays exactly what everyone always says about people into social justice warrior theory, is that they are black and white thinkers. They just cannot go beyond, either you're with us or you're against us, and there's nothing in between. So it just displays that. It's like pure projection.
It's anti-democratic, you know. All right, the UK and the US are kind of traditional two-party systems. You need that kind of dialectic in order to kind of get some, to have two ideas clashing and discussing to get kind of answers. But today, the amount of hate basically coming from the left, it's kind of Tory scum, Republican scum. You know, fascists and Nazis. That's really stupid.
There's I don't want to cut this discussion short. I just wanted to mention that if we can leave some time to discuss possibly the most significant event in London recently, with the event on the bridge, the terrorist attack.
London Bridge. The
London Bridge, yeah. Are we okay to move on to that, or is there some more comments or opinions on this?
Well, I think it was interesting. It kind of maybe is a segue into that. You know, in Theresa May's kind of message to the nation and the world, she did mention that, you know, have to have some difficult and sometimes embarrassing. Okay, and we as a group of women are trying to kind of inject nuance into, you know, the political what do you call it, discussion, as she says, you know, and for our pains for doing that target of the far left. We're trying to so yeah, we're following the PM's doing the best we can.
Yeah, exactly. Something useful something she said that's actually useful for once.
Yeah, she did. My son was watching it, and my son he was expecting her to come out with the kind of, you know, this will not defy, we will rise, blah blah blah, one love Manchester, all that shit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I was quite emotionally affected by this attack on Saturday. I mean, I think I would have been anyway, but it was a little bit deeper for me, because I was on the way back from Yardley, where I went to see two MRAs that we know who were doing a campaign against Jess Phillips, MP in Yardley. And I literally got on the train about 10-ish from Euston, and I believe that is when the attack started. And I saw some of the transport staff sort of looking at their phones and their iPads and not really paying attention, and they were all looking a bit perplexed. So I instantly had this gut feeling that something was happening. And then I checked Twitter just before I got on the train, before I lost my reception, and I saw something to do with London Bridge, and I thought, okay, this does not sound good. And when I got on, Bank and London Bridge and Borough were closed. And then a bunch of people got on after then, and this woman sat next to me, and she was sending messages on her WhatsApp before the Wi-Fi went to someone saying that she'd witnessed some kind of attack in London Bridge. And I really wanted to ask her about it, but she kind of sat back in her chair and she put her arms together and then she closed her eyes like this. And then I kind of felt like she needed her own space, so I didn't bother her. But I kept looking at Mia when she was asleep in the pram and thinking, oh my God, I could be upstairs in London Bridge right now, because if I wasn't in Yardley, I would have gone to an event that my friend from Make Britain Great Again News was doing or attending, and there was a possibility that I could have been in the area. So it really, really, really hit home. And when I got home, I couldn't sleep. I followed the whole thing for the whole night, and then the next day on Sunday, I literally just burst into tears with James, saying to him, you know, I feel like I was really close to that event, and I could have somehow been involved.
We all are. I think there's a journalist called Alison Pearson. I haven't, but she seemed to be the only kind of voice of on Twitter, basically, where she was saying, you know, like, people getting their throats slit on the streets of London cannot become just another incident, you know. And then people were saying, oh, you didn't need to be that graphic. Think of the families. And it's kind of the fact that, do you not think the families know what's happened? It's honestly just mind-boggling that people don't want to just say what is happening. And I just get the feeling that, you know, after these kind of attacks, we see a kind of real kind of in the press and everything, we turn on ourselves. Left turns on right and right turns on left, and the media are all eating themselves. And it's because we can't actually express, gagged and shackled, to just say, look, we know what the enemy is. No, it's Islamism. And we know that there are jihadis who've gone to Syria. They've trained up. They don't come back from Syria, you know, kind of. They are trained to kill people over there. They kill people. They come back here, and we know who they are. The authorities know who they are. Now,
one of the guys on the bridge actually was in a documentary I read yesterday, and saying that he was going to participate in a jihad act, and on film, the documentary was published. And nobody took note of it or did anything about it. One of the
is that the jihadi next door?
Yeah. His name was Butler.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why is this? That raises a big question. I mean, there's a huge amount of money spent on so-called looking for terrorist cells. Here's a guy out there waving his hands with flags in his hands. I'm a terrorist. I'm a terrorist. I'm going to kill you. And nobody does anything.
I think what makes it difficult is there are a lot of people that kind of have these views. I mean, for example, on my Facebook, there are some sort of radical leftist people who actually believe, and they're actually arguing, that the London Bridge attack, as well as the Manchester attack, were totally staged by the government in order to excuse
I've seen that.
In order to enable them to bomb the Middle East and kill more people. But I mean, I grew up in North London, and there are also, because of the way I look, people kind of assume that I am Muslim, and these people kind of, when I meet them, probably more when I was younger and I was kind of, you know, going out with young people in my area, they would assume by looking at me that I would share these views. And actually, there are huge communities of people in this country who hate this country and who hate the culture of this country. And a lot of them, when they go to university, they have all of that confirmed by the sort of, you know, social justice-y stuff that they're studying. So I think there's been a lot.
And by the mainstream media as well, reporting on hate crimes all the time and how Islamophobic we all are, and Diane Abbott saying that we're a completely racist country.
I mean, it's difficult when there's that amount of people, and also you can't, people who actually haven't done anything yet. What are you supposed to do with them? Are you supposed to put them under house arrest? You can't do that in this country. You know, if someone...
No, but the people who've actually been to Syria, I'm not talking about people who hold those kind of views, you can't, but people who've actually been to Syria,
of course.
I think there's about 400 of them, and they come, and they're on watch lists, and they know they come back. Just don't let them back in. If they go, they pledge allegiance to another country, let them stay there.
Isn't that what Trump is trying to do?
I'm not a politician, I don't have the answers, but that just seems that's the least you can do, basically.
I mean, I suspect...
Well, I mean, you know, Islamic State also warned us that this is what Ramadan was going to look like. So we should have, you know, we went to the highest level of, like, what was it, imminent threat or something in security after Manchester. But we should have been at that all the time, and we should have had troops on the streets all the time, and we should have armed our police. And, you know, we should legalize pepper spray today, because if those guys had been blinded, they could have slit a few less throats.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm worried that, you know, that we might just end up in a temporary, under temporary martial law. We're not allowed to talk about this openly. We're not allowed to make the distinction between race, you know, racism and the criticism of an ideology. If we're shackled, you know, then there are elements of the population that are going to take, you know, things into their own hands. And
yeah, exactly, and they get lumped in the minds of progressives who dominate the mainstream media, and in the minds of some of the hate crime laws with people like us.
We're part of them, aren't we? We're part of that basket.
Exactly, we get lumped in with them.
Have a conversation.
Exactly, and all we respect is the ability for people to express their views and for other people to rebut those views. Mm-hmm. And you just drive extreme views like that underground.
Exactly. I want to know. I want them in. They're a clear and present danger rather than a hidden and, you know, covert danger that's going to kind of jump out, and we're not going to have any preparation for that at all.
Is there any change on the streets of London now? Do you see a visible change on the streets of London?
I haven't been to central London since the weekend, and so I can't say. I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know where anyone else is. We all live in. I mean, Paula lives in Sheffield, but
Newcastle.
Sorry, Newcastle.
Northumberland.
So sorry, I'm such an ignorant Londoner. Please forgive me.
Scotland.
How are you voting in the Indie Rev 2s, Paula?
Are you going to vote the SNP, Paula? Anyway.
Bristol?
We all live, all three of
Virginia, Frankie.
Catherine, we live quite far away from central London. We basically live in the suburbs. Kind of, yeah. And so I don't have an excuse to go to central London. And to be honest, I've been invited out for drinks tomorrow, and we're going to West London. And I'm thinking, shall I cycle? Shall I get the underground? Shall I get a bus? You know, what's going to be the safest? What's going to enable me to get away from anything potentially happening the fastest? That is what goes through my mind when thinking about it now. My partner, he works in Canary Wharf, and he cycles there every day back and forth. And I was telling him that I wanted to start cycling on the pavement a bit more, even though that's illegal, just in case, you know, he gets run over by a big truck with some jihadis in there. I mean,
yeah, my partner sort of doesn't like our family going into central London at all. But on the rare occasions that we do, we make like a plan of who's going to be shield for which child in an event. I mean, I don't know, we might be more people, because my partner's a very cautious person anyway, and I actually knew someone who was murdered at the Bataclan in November 2015. So I mean, ever since then, terrorism's been on my mind every single day, and with the last 3 months in the UK, it's been really hard for me, actually. It's been really depressing and really angry, and I'm sorry I've got to take a call.
Yeah, I would just say, I think it's really important that, you know, we make it clear, you know, and support Muslim dissidents, right? The Muslims who are trying to speak up, you know, and whose lives, you know, under threat because of doing so.
Yes.
I mean, here in Newcastle last year, that we've got a big Muslim community in the West End of Newcastle, and they did actually march for peace. And they and on Poppy Day they were out selling poppies, and they did that in Middlesbrough as well. You know, showing just being out there supporting kind of Western liberal democracy. That's why they came here. That's why. So it's people watching, or people who want to kind of pigeonhole us into being anti-Muslim. No, we're anti-Islamist, and there are countless Muslims who are also anti-Islamist, right? But they don't, in their communities, it's dangerous for them to come out and say that. So we, as people who can say it, have to support them to say it. You know.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. They have anyone who wants to speak out against from within the Islamic community and speak out against the terrorism and that element of their ideology that is used to support terrorism. These people's lives are at the greatest of risks. So they do need to be supported. But on the other side of it, they are the ones who can affect the most change from within their system. You know, it is and I could be wrong in this, but I've heard the argument that ultimately it is the responsibility of the Islamic community to step up and rout out this kind of inhumane and terrorist, murderous element from within their own community.
Well, yeah, I mean, Islam has to reform, and I think we all need to support reformers in that task. But there are things the government can do. Like, for example, we have Saudi-funded mosques here who are teaching a really hateful, and that could be outlawed today.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be a lot going on in that direction from within the Islamic community. At least it's I don't see it reported on. I don't see much of that action going on just yet.
I have noticed a little bit more of that in the past few weeks. The Times actually had quite a good piece by Ayaan Hirsi Ali after the Manchester attack. And I think I have noticed a few more voices of that, because there are so many of them. But I think up until quite recently, it was just that you wouldn't hear from them. You would only hear from the kind of social justice intersectional ones. And I think people are starting to, I think the mainstream is actually starting to wake up to the fact that they do have to give these people a bit more of a voice.
Well, the woman you mentioned, I can't pronounce her name well. Yeah. I mean, she's one of the early critics of Islam. She came out of that community, and she was criticized for coming out, and she was banned at speaking at universities in the US from within the university crowd.
Because she's a conservative. She's a social conservative. That's why
she was called Islamophobic here in the West.
But
so I mean the people who do have the courage to come out are not being supported by the West. So in a sense, the West, we in the Western community and culture are guilty of not supporting true dissidents from within the Islamic community.
So that's the irony, isn't it? That kind of the progressive left, liberal left, no tolerance for dissenters like Percy Alley and people like that, whereas the classical liberals, the centrists and the conservatives, actually shield them and support them and try and facilitate them.
Yeah, the left is against our culture, and so in a sense, I guess, well, the left here is dominated by feminism. Feminism is just against anything white male. For number one, that's the top of their list. You know, if it's white male, anti-white male, it's good.
Yeah, I was going to say I do know someone personally who has had to cut off his family. He's from Birmingham, and he has moved into a youth hostel, and he can't tell them where he is.
Mm-hmm.
Because he disagrees with Islam, and he says that they are his family in particular, but his critiques are extended to the community and the ideology he knows. He calls them hypocrites because they go on about how moral their religion is and their ideology, but then they advocate for treating those who are non-Muslim in a horrible way. So he's now had to move to another part of the country, and now he's actually considering moving down to the southwest to get as far away from them as possible.
We need refuges for apostates, basically.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's basically had to say that he is running away from abuse. Otherwise, he wouldn't get any help.
Yeah.
Here, not long ago, and this is a commentary on the naivety of blindly accepting multiculturalism as a good thing all the time. It's an ignorance of what other cultures often really represent, in contrast to our own that would disagree with those practices. We had a East Indian family here not long ago, about a kilometer or two from where I lived in Kingston, Ontario, and they killed their daughter. The husband and the wife and the whole family participated in this because she was not following the family's dictates on her love life. And I forget the details of it, but she wanted some guy and was with some guy they didn't approve of, and she wouldn't toe the line, and so she ended up at the bottom of a river in the car, drowned, and they caught them, proved their murder, and they put the husband and the wife behind bars. But that is part of their culture, and this is what the left obsession with multiculturalism and Bambi and Disney World is all unwilling to look at, is that there are practices in these other cultures that are not acceptable, not compatible with our culture here.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that, in the asylum process from refugee camps, LGBTQ people have priority, and that's because they're not safe in refugee camps. And then you get all the far left saying, oh, we should let them all in, we should let them all in. But if, LGBTQ community are not safe with them, I don't want them here.
Ironically, it's the feminists who want to let them all in too.
Hmm.
It's naive. It's an incredible level of naivety to think that that you can let in blind, like wide open doors on other cultures who hold beliefs that you are not human and you should be killed.
Yeah, and it's not a race issue at all. It's a cultural issue. It's race is perspective of the question. Multiracialism is not a problem. The problem is a clash of cultures, really, and not all cultures clash like that. Of course, obviously, I think I'm reading Percy Alley's book. I read it a long time ago now, but I just remember her saying, that tenets of Islamism is that there's no separation of church and state. It is, it's a religion, but it's also a political kind of expansionist imperial doctrine, which people who that religion must submit to. There is no in between. it's about. I mean, I think one of her film, the film that she was making in Holland when Theo van Gogh had his throat cut. Mission, and it was called submission because that's what people must. That's basically what the followers of Islam must do to the religion. And remembering, it's not just a religion; it's a political expansionist, imperialist. Well.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, some do. Like, you know, the Ahmadi Muslims are very, very much moderate and, you know, fit in with our culture very well, but they're in danger from more Muslims in our communities. Yeah.
Well, there's lots of intra-Muslim, intra-Islamic violence, isn't there, between the Sunnis and the Shias and the different communities, and you get.
There was an attack in Iran this morning, wasn't there? I saw. So we have to remember that they kill other Muslims.
Oh, they kill Muslims in far more numbers than they kill us. But that's only because they've got more access to. If they had, they'd kill us just as much. If they had the means.
No, within their culture, they can openly kill somebody who's not being sufficiently submissive.
So guys, I don't mean to change the subject, and I know we haven't got long left, but I was thinking, since we're talking about the situation in Britain at the moment, we can't avoid what happened this morning. I don't know if you know who Diane Abbott is, Steve.
No.
On this note, I've got to go. I've got a school run to do.
Okay.
Oh, I wanted your comment.
So, have fun with that. Try and mention Yardley as well.
Oh yeah.
Fun in Yardley. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Mia says bye. Look. Diane Abbott is the Shadow Home Secretary for the Labour Party. What was that?
Mm-hmm.
And this morning she has stepped down from her position, saying that she's ill. And in the last few days, she has done some disastrous media appearances. So I just wanted to tell you about that, Steve, in case you didn't know. She is someone that accuses everyone of being sexist and racist because she is a black woman. So therefore, any criticism of her is because of that.
So she stepped down from being an MP?
Stepped down from her position, yeah. She said that she is ill. I don't know what Catherine about that.
Well, she's just stepped down as Shadow Home Secretary, hasn't she? I think she's still an MP,
right.
Isn't she?
Yeah, she's an MP. But technically at the moment, no one's an MP because of the election. But so if she gets re-elected, then yeah, she would be, I guess, right? But yeah, because she's ill. And then there was also a story in the Daily Mail. This email prankster sent her an email pretending to be one of the press advisors in the Labour Party, insinuating that she needs to exaggerate her illness in the press. So by then sort of suggesting that the illness isn't really real.
I guess the other thing we should mention is we do have an election tomorrow.
Right. Tomorrow is election day. Okay. Yeah. How are you guys feeling about that? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, there are all these polls, and if you look at the polls, the Tories started off ridiculously way ahead, and there was a very interesting article in the Times about how you always want to go into an election as an underdog, and so in these polls, the gap has been closing, and some of these polls are suggesting that like sort of Labour is only 1 point behind, which kind of nobody can really believe. So everyone's very sceptical of these polls. But I think a lot of people are really quite shaken about how the possibility of Corbyn actually becoming prime minister, because the consequences for the country would be really quite dire. I think most people agree. But also Theresa May, I think there is a general consensus that she has really done quite a bad job of managing this campaign. I don't know, other people may disagree with me, but she hasn't really come out of it very well. I don't know, other people might want to.
Here,
Yeah.
I'll just comment quickly on that. Here in the West, they're talking that the incident on the London Bridge plays into her strength being the incumbent PM and may give her a boost back into office.
Not really, because she hasn't handled it very well. Like, she did her speech at the weekend after the attack, and she said, enough is enough. It's time to take, Islamic terrorism more seriously. But she didn't go into any real details about what the policies will be from now on to get a hold of the problem. She just said that we would be going to war in the Middle East. And she also mentioned her plans for increased censorship and regulation of the internet. And then the kind of comments made about handling the terrorism threat here that's going on right now, it was very vague. There was nothing there that instilled confidence in anyone. And I always kind of ask my partner about to gauge the kind of everyday quite apolitical person what they think, and he's just livid. He said that all his friends who he wouldn't suggest are particularly conservative or particularly Labour, they're all quite moderate in various ways. They all just think that she's weak. So, but the thing is, she's not weak enough to be worse than Corbyn. So we're in a rock and a hard place, really.
Yeah. And I mean, when she comes out and says that she's going to, about the internet censorship, that's, for her to kind of say that the internet is causing terrorism is kind of like blaming, lung cancer on cigarette paper and not the tobacco that's inside the cigarettes. We need free speech and we need an open society in order to fight them. Kind of, and that's what put in my mind the idea that we might put up with some form of a martial law or a police state.
Surprisingly, there are a lot of people who do believe the censoring the internet and giving up some of your freedoms and freedoms of speech and whatnot is a good idea.
When you go to law, you
really annoy me. Oh.
Sorry, when the martial law is normally kind of implemented in some kind of degree, and it's a temporary measure. But we need to know we're at war. Go, have limits on free speech because of that, but then say that we're not at war and everything's normal and we should just carry on as normal. That doesn't work. So we just need clear messages and information.
Well, freedom is inherently dangerous. I remember reading this some time ago. You cannot have a freedom without accepting some risk. And this is what the politicians of the day seem to be trying to hoodwink people about, as if you can have a free society and a totally risk-free society at the same time. Those two things just don't go together.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Okay, I think we better
maybe Catherine wants to weigh in on this before I know she has to go soon.
I just think everything that Natty's been saying. Yeah, people are a bit or very disappointed in Theresa May, and particularly because the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats are trying to blame her for these terrorist atrocities because while she was Home Secretary, she presided over funding cuts to the police. And so they're using that to blame her for, not Scotland Yard, MI5 or whoever it is that would investigate terrorists, not having the power and the money and the resources to follow up on these leads, because a lot of these terrorists were actually reported. but they didn't have necessarily the resources to follow everyone and bug every single person's phone who's reported. So there are people who are trying to blame this on Theresa May, but then how many people, because of that, are going to vote for Jeremy Corbyn? Because everybody knows that he's almost certainly going to be softer on all of that stuff than Theresa May. So
the Labour are going to decrease defence funding substantially. If you can't blame what's happened on Theresa May for cutting funding when he's going to slash it if he gets in.
That's the thing. So I'm wondering where all of this, upset with Theresa May, how many people because of that will vote for Jeremy Corbyn? Because I mean, I have noticed a few people on my Facebook saying, look, I really I don't like Theresa May. Who should, but am I doing a really irresponsible thing by voting for Jeremy Corbyn because I don't really want him to become Prime Minister either? I think there are quite a few people in that situation.
God,
it's quite stupid. But yeah, there are people sitting there having these conversations with themselves. So I think that's what people will decide tomorrow at the ballot box.
Yeah, and it's a shame that after Brexit that UKIP never capitalised on that momentum, because they're just not. They lost a lot of seats in the local elections, and Nuttall doesn't seem to be as good as Farage by a long way. So they're just not a contender really, and it's
their manifesto is a joke. Actually, a lot of stuff in it is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know why they went that route of just trying to please everyone and including everyone when they were never that party in the first place. I don't understand why they've done that. It doesn't make any sense. It's disappointing.
Okay, sorry guys, I'm gonna go. I'll speak to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, see you, Catherine. And on that note, we should probably wrap up. We've been on a line now for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes.
So Elizabeth asked me to mention Yardley again. So what's happening is two MRA friends of ours, they're called Swain and Jordan. They have been in Yardley since Friday. And Yardley is where Jess Phillips MP is, her constituency. And they've been handing out some wonderful leaflets and putting them through people's doorsteps, letterboxes, and in the town centre. Although I have to tell you that Yardley's town centre doesn't really exist. It's a kind of a place that you just kind of drive through going to another place. It doesn't seem to have any centre to it or any structure, unfortunately. I'm sure it's got lovely people there, but yeah, so it hasn't been easy for them so far, but they have managed to get the attention of Jess Phillips. She has tweeted about it, and she's not happy.
I saw that. I saw this come across Twitter not long ago.
Yeah, so
she's going to sue him for being anti-feminist.
Right?
she wants to sue them for writing anti-feminist.
Yeah, exactly. She says in her tweet, "Lawyer up." When all the leaflet has is quotes from various people who are feminists, and in fact, one of them is from Erin Pizzey, so it's not necessarily all feminists. And it points out that she sniggered and laughed at Philip Davies when he tried to get some men's issues taken seriously in Parliament, which is true.
It is true. Yeah, I saw that as well.
Her doing that. And so she's saying that she wants to sue them for sharing the truth. So I don't think she's going to get very far.
No, and there's an element of within feminism and within the Western culture that is trying to make criticism of feminism illegal.
I know, and that was one of the reasons why I wasn't happy with the EU. I mean, there's many other reasons why, but there was a bit of a push in the EU to increase hate speech laws, and one of those elements of that was to make criticising anti-feminism illegal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. Once again, we are being lumped in with people that deny the Holocaust when we're completely different, and there's no similarities there whatsoever, except that we're criticising an ideology. And
we are a majority as well. And we are a majority,
Yeah.
so the tyranny of the minority are trying to control the rest of us.
What was that, Paula?
We're
can't hear you.
non-feminist.
Can you say that again? Your mic is not coming through.
Is it not?
Now it is. Try that one more time.
I was just that, you know, feminists are a minority, so basically it's the tyranny of the minority.
Right.
But look, Steve, I put the hit piece on us. I put a link. It's an archived link, so we don't give them any hits.
Yeah, I put that up in the comments when we first started.
Yeah.
So
been asked by the Guardian to comment on that, and we have, but we don't know if it's going to get published. So, and if it's not, we're going to be sending it to other outlets to see if we can get that published there.
one quick last question from a viewer here. They want to know what you think about the fact that there are a large number of female leaders in British politics these days.
Female leaders. Well, I don't know. The Labour has positive discrimination, doesn't it? Nicola Sturgeon's a joke.
Okay, the fellow says here the leader of the Tories, the SNP, the DUP, Sinn Féin, and Welsh nationalists are all female leaders.
Yeah, I think it was Andrea Leadman. I like her, and I think Theresa May is the best of that bunch. I think the rest of them, I don't think Theresa May is a feminist. I think the rest of them are all feminists. They're all.
How many male leaders are there?
I don't know. But certainly, Labour have all women shortlists, don't they? So whether they're there on merit or something else, I don't know.
I don't really understand what the question is. Is it just hang on, let me have a look at the chat.
Just you to comment on what you think about that.
Women, yeah, I don't mind women being leaders as long as they're good leaders, as long as they have the stamina. You know, like Diane Abbott, for instance. Diane Abbott clearly doesn't have the stamina.
No, she does not. I'm sorry, I really think
any kind of power.
I'm not saying that Diane Abbott isn't suffering from any kind of illness, because she might well be. However, I have a feeling that she's just suffering from a massive ego wound, because she's realizing that she's not up to the task. Yeah. And that's why and it's probably manifested in some kind of illness. You know, sometimes when you get a bit depressed after you've been rejected about something, or you realize I think that's probably what's happened to Diane Abbott. That's just my
opinion, shouldn't we? And just say you didn't get stuff because you're unfair. It's unfair. You got stuff because you're not up to the job. You know. Yeah.
So
politics is a really,
you're on the hot seat.
I want to comment again. What I was going to say was, I have to say that I don't have a lot of confidence in Amber Rudd as the Home Secretary. I don't know. I just think that it's not necessarily because she's a woman at all. It's because she's Amber Rudd. But I don't. And I think other countries,
their individual, things rather than their sex.
Yeah.
According to one viewer, there are 7 male and 7 female leaders in British politics.
Wow. And then we have the Women's Equality Party telling us that we need representation in Parliament. I mean,
well, some of them believe, obviously, that is it Labour that all candidates should be female?
Yeah, female supremacy. That's what they want.
That's what they want. So, folks, if you have any last comments, we should probably wrap it up. Paula, any last comments?
No, just that, if you are in the UK and you're voting, please don't vote for Corbyn.
Okay, 1 against Corbyn. Paula, how about you? I think we've lost Paula here.
Also, if you're interested in the campaign in Yardley, I can put the link, give the link to you now, Steve, and you can put it in or I can put it in the chat before we go. And they are taking donations, and you can read about the campaign.
Better send me the link, because the chat, I think, gets lost after we go off, and I'll put it in the video when it comes up.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, we will let you know what happens with our Guardian rebuttal, and yeah, so hopefully we won't be
next week.
Yeah. Natty, just stay on for a second after we go off there, will you?
No worry.
Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in next week with the Liberty Bells for updates on Britain and issues that affect the rest of the world as well. Bye.
Bye.